I've noticed a shift in the narrative. I've noticed a shift in the Overton window, as it were. Disney and lots of other major studios and TV stations and mainstream media. Well, maybe not mainstream media. They're all still captured. But a lot of the people, and of course I've been saying this for years, is you've got your latecomers who are talking about this stuff. I was talking about this stuff, 10 years ago. It's amazing how all of this narrative shift is happening at the same time that all that overseas U.S. aid money was cut. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Got to wonder where some of that money went. I can tell you where it went. Studios. Yeah. A lot of these execs getting paid under the table. Big money that's now stashed in their mattress to produce the woke crap that they were creating. I mean, didn't anybody out there ever ask themselves, how are these studios producing this garbage that's losing $100, $200, $300 million, and they continue to create the same kind of content? How is that happening? What's going on? How can you continue this losing proposition where you're producing a product that nobody wants? How does that work? How do you create something that nobody desires, doesn't buy, nobody buys it, there's no profit, in fact you're losing money, and yet you're able to keep doing it? Well, because somebody's paying you externally, outside of the company, the corporation that you are getting a ginormous salary from, which is another big giant question mark. That these CEOs making mad money producing products that lose money, and yet somehow they're able to keep producing these products that make no money. That's not possible. That's not even statistically possible. How? How is that possible? How do you produce garbage that makes no money, and how are you then able to continue to operate when you have no income, when you have no revenue? How does that work? That makes no sense. Unless you're getting money from somewhere else, right? From big, giant investment firms like BlackRock getting propped up by the American taxpayer, and then they're investing in these companies and these corporations, pumping your tax dollars, that they get to invest for you in your retirement, and then they spend it on what? Miss Marvel. Girl boss crap that nobody wants to see. But it's a good indoctrination tool, right? There's a few useful idiot, moron, shill, sheeple, fool, weak-minded imbeciles out there that they are actually able to capture. But we've reached kind of a saturation point now, and it's not working anymore. All the idiots that can be captured have been captured anyway. So, now they're shifting. Now they're trying to shift the Overton window, and they're trying to appeal to you. They're trying to now capture a more right-wing, conservative audience. That's what's going on here. All right? I mean, yeah, that and the money dried up. Because they were also starting to get pushback. And the pushback eventually occurred. Of course, for every action, there will be an equal opposite reaction. It may not be instantaneous, but it will be. And it occurred eventually. So they girl-bossed it. They feminazied it. They pushed their leftist, postmodern, claptrap mumbo-jumbo as much as they possibly could for 15, 20 years. And now the pushback is coming in the form of a conservative, right-wing, populist movement. Oh my, what do we do? Well, we're going to push a bunch of controlled op shill right-wing influencers who are going to gatekeep and will essentially spread the exact messages we want spread, push the agendas we want pushed, maybe just with different messaging in a different way. But it's still going to benefit us. We've already captured all the useful idiots we possibly could on the left. Unfortunately, now it's also created too much of a a pushback, a backlash. So we've got to change tactics now. So now we got to start sponsoring people who are going to market themselves as more right-wing and conservative, and they're going to call themselves paleo-conservatives and push orthodox Christianity and some kind of return to tradition, and then tell you what you want to hear so that they can smuggle in Trojan horse in the messaging that will continue to push their agenda. And that's what we got going on now. So we have a lot of influencers in the space, and it's amazing how easy it is for me to spot the controlled op shill, useful, idiot fools who are supported by the orthodoxy, who are supported by the mainstream, the lamestream, the current powers that be, the WEF, the Council on Foreign Relations, the people who really have the power. They're easy to spot. And I'll tell you how. They're not too hard to spot. So first of all, let me tell you about YouTube. I actually at one time had a pretty decent following on YouTube, and I made thousands of dollars a month. This was before the adpocalypse, and when that hit, my earnings went down to 10% of what they had been before, and then I eventually got banned for some BS, nonsense, totally contrived bull that kept me off of YouTube, this channel specifically, for about 8 years. Now that I've come back, this channel is blacklisted. It's got all of the same algorithmic suppression it had 8 years ago, and all of the Nazi complainers and postmodern douches, and just all of the tolerant lefties who couldn't tolerate anything I had to say back then. But now, you know, the messages that I was spreading have become more mainstream because the well has been poisoned. And the people spreading the messages, for the most part, are the ones who get the most play, and the ones who get the most play are the controlled op shills I'm talking about. And I know YouTube very well, actually, and I can tell you that now, today, you cannot, as an independent content maker, you cannot find footing at all. Yes, there are some exceptions, and there are some small content creators out there who find a niche audience and are able to earn a little bit of money. But by and large, and this doesn't happen, and by the way, if we're talking about large-scale content creation, you building a giant audience and making a living from YouTube, you can't do that as a new content creator anymore. And it's been that way for quite some time now. The past 5 years, minimally. In fact, it's been that way really since I got booted off back in 2017. So, number one, if somebody comes out of nowhere within 2 or 3 years on YouTube and now has, if they popped up around 2022, 2023, if they popped up and have built a pretty strong following in the past several years, and again, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm going to get to those individuals as well and why they're part of the same gatekeeping, controlled op shill, useful idiot community. They just might not be contracted, employed directly, but they're still benefiting indirectly because they're towing the party line. They're doing what the powers that be desire, and they're not getting into certain subject matter that is the actual problem, i.e. they're just discussing the symptoms of what's actually going on and not what's going on in and of itself, the problem that is. They're not addressing that, and so they get rewarded. But if you are someone who is trying to get onto YouTube and you are right-wing and you have any kind of message that is seen by the powers that be as something that challenges or brings to light the underlying problems that are creating the symptoms we're seeing now in our so-called Western culture, they can get no footing. And you cannot get footing now on YouTube at all. And it's been this way for years without support from a benefactor. I'll give you one good example, Destiny. Everybody knows who Destiny is. He's, cranked up on speed half the time. Borderline autistic moron that a lot of people like to tout as some kind of master debater. He's a good masturbator, I'm sure. He's a freak. He's a geek. He's a degenerate scumbag. Not that intelligent from my point of view. Maybe to some other people's point of view. He's really smart. I think a lot of people like to hold this guy up as some kind of intellectual monster genius because they've went against him and thrashed him. And if he's some kind of monstrous genius intellect, then they're an even bigger intellect. So it's a lot of, self-flagellation, a lot of self-congratulatory behavior when you tout Destiny. And it's usually only done by people who've thrashed the guy. But this guy, he's paid by a number of left-wing groups, think tanks, that have an agenda. He's made most of his money from those individuals, and he's pushed heavily by YouTube because he's got the right messaging. He's serving very specific masters. And the way you can spot these individuals, they pop up, and within 2-3 years, they've got hundreds of thousands of followers. You can't do it. It can't be done. And it hasn't been something that you can do unless you were supported by the platform for a long time. There's nothing organic about growth on YouTube at all. It's an ideological echo chamber. It exists for the sole purpose of spreading a specific type of propaganda, or at the very least, controlling the narrative messaging of anything that is anti that propaganda, that messaging, so that nothing enters into the space that is YouTube that can challenge the underlying causes of the symptoms that are the only things that are actually addressed on YouTube. But if you actually address the real causes, the underlying issues, you will get no play at all. Now, if you just focus specifically and solely on the symptoms, they'll love you and they'll promote you. You're a useful idiot shill. And they're rewarding you, and they want you to continue to do it because who cares? Keep treating the symptoms, and we'll keep pumping in the propaganda, the virus that feeds the illness, and you're not going to solve anything. Great. You keep everybody misdirected, and we reward you. And there's a lot of people like that on YouTube who are just feeding the algorithm, addressing the symptoms, not the actual problem, and those people get propped up. So in that sense, they are useful idiots. They're being rewarded. They're not directly controlled in the sense that they were hired by someone and that they have copious amounts of backing and backers who are paying them in addition to the ad revenue they get on YouTube and possible sponsors, but they are supported by the algorithm and they're getting rewarded by walking in lockstep and doing what has rewarded them and will continue to do so. So if you see anybody growing, getting bigger, they're making a living on this platform, on YouTube, it's because they're not a threat, and in fact, they're helping. They're helping the orthodoxy, the powers that be, by misdirecting you, by addressing only the symptoms, telling you what you want to hear, and then you think that somebody is speaking for you, and that something is actually being done, and then you continue to be complacent and apathetic and do nothing. And then they win. Then there's the other people who are supported. Did you know that you can pay per views on YouTube? Did you know that? You can buy views. Didn't know that, did you? You buy them from YouTube. No, you say? Go and research it for yourself. You can buy views. This brings me to the next type of shill, the controlled op shill. They're controlled, They're funded. These are the people who have come out of nowhere in 3 years, 4 years, 2 years. They've got professional looking backgrounds. They got a professional looking channel. It looks like something that was produced by Fox or MSN or some other mainstream outlet. It's very professional, very clean, very polished. This person, it's just right out the gate. Their content production was like this. They've got a studio background, and they've got all these fancy graphics, and they've got dono chats and donation bars, and everything on their screen is so polished and professional. And they've been on YouTube, 6 months, a year. First of all, how did this person just come out of nowhere? Unless they've got some kind of background in design or digital graphic creation, something to do with technology. Most of them don't. How did they just come out of nowhere and have all of this clean, polished, professional editing? Where's this coming from? Many of them have staff and producers and editors, and you'll see them working with various other personalities on YouTube. They've been on YouTube for 3 years. Less. Their first year on YouTube, they've got other people who work for them, with them, in concert, producing their content. What? There's nothing organic about that. You got to start to ask some questions here. Where is this person who has not been on the platform long enough to grow much of a following, which would then fund his project or her channel, and then enable them to polish it up? How do they come out the gate with all of this professional looking presentation? This stuff costs big money, by the way. Stuff is not cheap, okay? The ability to produce that kind of edited content with an end product. I mean, first of all, there's just the time element. These people will come out the gate and within a year or two have multiple channels, a clip channel, an IRL channel. It's like, what's going on here? How are they finding the time to produce all these clips? Let me tell you how clips work. First of all, you produce an IRL stream, something like this. Then you have to load it into an editor. You have to process it. Maybe you have to do some kind of sound editing and compression and noise reduction. Got to run it through filters. And then you have to reattach it to the video. Then you have to go through the video and you have to do your editing there and produce the actual piece itself. And if there's any kind of bleeping going on of certain words, somebody's got to spend time going through the episode and doing that. And there's probably somebody sitting on the sidelines making notes about timestamps. When did he say the F word? When did he say the P word? The prawn, corn, when did he say this, that? I got to bleep this, bleep that. There's somebody watching, taking notes and making timestamps. There's somebody who is working in the background, producing as the show's going on. There's another dude producing thumbnails. There's another person who's editing the show, post-show. This person just came out of nowhere. You can't do that unless you have supporters, unless you have investors, like Destiny. You think that guy became as big and rich as he is by being intelligent? He's a moron. He's a moron. On speed. That's all. This is how you can spot these people. You cannot, in 3 years or even 10 years, as an independent talent, build an audience on YouTube. It is impossible anymore. You can't do it. The platform, I'm telling you, as somebody who used to have success on this platform, before they had voice recognition algorithms that would automatically shadow ban and suppress your content, that you can't. There was a time you could, when you had big fat land whale, purple-haired, septum ring broads as the only gatekeepers. They're just sitting there, and the only way they get alerted to your content being something that is problematic on the platform is somebody complains about you. So it's you can really get by for quite some time under that kind of system and even thrive for a while. By the way, everybody from that era is now gone from YouTube, and if they've come back, they have no audience because they are heavily suppressed because they talked about the real causes of the problems instead of the shills that are on YouTube now who just misdirect by only addressing the symptoms. So that's how you're going to spot your controlled op shills. They've got professional sound and professional quality editing almost right out the gate, when their show should be looking like this one. And I admit, okay, there was a time when I started my show and when I was on YouTube back in the day, 2016, 2017, I was a business owner in China making mad money, okay? I'm not where I am now, okay? People go through different stages and states of life, and right now, yeah, I'm a broke mofo for sure. Because I had a stroke, because I had a heart attack, because I got septic shock and nearly died. That's neither here nor there. There was a time when I was doing extremely well, and this wasn't ever my job. It's still not my job. I'd love for it to be, but even if it were, I didn't know how to produce that kind of stuff. That'd be very difficult for me. I'm sure I could eventually learn to do it, but that software and that, but I didn't even have the time, and I don't have the time now. I'm telling you, if you are an independent private creator, you do not have the time or the expertise, and if you have the expertise, you do not have the time to create a self-sustaining channel. And even if you did, the only way that you could get it going from the get-go with the kind of professional polishing that a lot of these people have right out the gate is you are funded. You have investors. And you're still not going to get any footing unless you're towing the party line, doing what benefits them and their narrative. It doesn't challenge it, but instead misdirects from it. So you will not find popularity, you will not find growth, you will not find success on this platform. You won't unless you're part of the machine. It's that simple. Whether or not you're paid directly as a controlled opposition shill or indirectly by juicy ad revenue because you are not challenging the narrative. You are part of that. People like me, there's a reason my channel can't grow. There's a reason I'm not able to reach a larger audience. Because I talk about the causes of the problems and I don't talk about the symptoms. That's how you can spot these people. Come out of nowhere. Ha! You cannot, in 3 years, you cannot have a channel with hundreds of thousands of followers and you are making a living off YouTube unless you're bought. That's it. Either indirectly or directly. I'm sorry to tell you this. And if you believe otherwise, you're an idiot. You're a fucking idiot. Sorry to tell you that too. But if you think that in 2025 or even 2020 that you could come on YouTube, challenge the powers that be by addressing the causes of all the issues we are seeing now, and that your channel is going to have 500,000 subscribers in a few years, you're daft. You're goofy. You're stupid. You're just stupid. I'm sorry. Most of these people are part of the machine. They're part of the liberal orthodoxy machine. They're controlled opposition shills. That's it. They're in it for the cash and they're getting paid off not to talk about certain issues. And they're making mad bucks because they don't talk about those things. And instead, they just keep you focused on the symptom. The hell is that going to solve? Oh, nothing. That's the point. That's how you spot these people. Okay? Who can you think of who just, when their channel was created, it looked too good. It looked too polished. Too, almost like something you would see on a mainstream TV show or news program. The production values were way too high. They got employees. They got all these people running around working for them. The hell? How does anybody do that? And a lot of these people got kids. I got me 5 kids I'm supporting, and I work a 9 to 5, and I'm just a regular blue-collar Joe. How the hell are you affording the thousands, nay, tens of thousands of dollars that would be required for the computer processing power, the studio, the employees you obviously have, the time required? That's not possible. You're supporting how many kids? There's no way, baby. No way you're supporting those kids working 60 hours a week. How do I know? Because I owned my own business that made millions of dollars a year in China, tens of millions of dollars a year, by the way. And I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay, a year. So I was busy working harder than these goofballs who want you to believe that they have somehow miraculously beat the algorithm. I have the secret. I've figured out how to make money on YouTube, and you just follow my advice and you make the money too. Well, so long as you, push the party line and don't, talk about certain subjects and address the real problems, then yeah, you're serving a purpose, yo. You're gatekeeping and you're distracting people from the real issues. You go, boy, you go, girl, you keep serving us. I know. I was working 80, 100 hours a week. Ain't nobody with a family and a house and a stay-at-home wife who supposedly is marketing themselves as a paleo conservative Christian that's working a regular 9 to 5 blue-collar job. No way they're going to be able to afford all of the resources required to start a channel like that professional in regards to production value right from the get-go, let alone have the time to do all of the production and the editing. Your ass is sleeping and eating and working. And how some people out there don't ask these questions is mind-boggling to me. Why are you not seeing that these people are fakes, they're frauds, they're phonies, they're controlled op shills, they're bought and paid for? There's no way they can produce the content that they do without donors, without investors. Oh, but they say things I like. I like what they say. It resonates with me. So, I'm going to donate too. And then it becomes self-sustaining and a profitable venture at that point. Oh, yeah, baby. How did it get to that point, though? You got to have investment. Where'd the money come from? Where did the manpower come from? Where did the labor and the time and the human resources come from when you just got some guy, I'm just some blue-collar dude who started streaming in my spare time that I don't have because I got 5 fucking kids and a stay-at-home wife and I need to feed them and myself and I'm working every freaking spare moment when I'm not sleeping, but I somehow find the time to produce a daily show and all this content and edit it and all that and put it out there and work 80 hours a week too. Are you fucking stupid? Are you stupid? Well, I don't care, realist. I like what he says, and you know what? Because he's doing what he's doing, he's helping our side. Woo, and he's supporting the same values I do. No, they're not. You're just stupid. You're stupid. You're just being misdirected. and focusing your time and your energy on someone who themselves, and your resources, by the way, if you're stupid enough to donate to them, and focusing those on someone who's accomplishing nothing. Because you have been misled about what the actual causes are to the problems in this country, and so you believe that your focus and your following and your financial support will actually make a difference. Meanwhile, this person is just a controlled op shill or a useful idiot shill who is doing nothing more than serving the orthodox powers that be by addressing the symptoms and not the actual problems themselves. And you're being duped, and now you're a useful idiot as well. I try to tell people this. They don't want to hear it. Oh, no, he's great. He's awesome, man. It's what he says, the stuff that he preaches. Oh, it's so good. He's really making a difference. Everything that's happening now in our culture, everything that's happening in this so-called society is planned out ahead of time. You are controlled. You think you're free? You think you're changing anything? You think that this supposed change in the Overton window and this leaning more towards so-called right-wing paleo-conservative views has anything to do with you making a difference in the narrative? You're fucking stupid if you believe that. You're not changing anything. Nothing. By supporting these people. If they have an audience on YouTube, they are bought and paid for. Don't you get it? What do you think's going on here? What do you think is going on? You think YouTube is a free speech platform? Get out of here. You're controlled. The messaging is controlled. You think they're letting through anybody or any messaging in any real way that would challenge them and their agenda? What are you thinking? The powers that be control all the media. You think Tim Fool didn't know that Russia was paying him $100,000 an episode? And that was for nothing? Really? You think that? Why are you people so stupid? Why are you so stupid? You're actually paying for the very indoctrination and propaganda that is keeping you enslaved, and you don't know it. And I come out and tell you, and you tell me, oh, realist, you're just a hater. You're a hater. You just are against these people because they're more successful than you. Yo, man, I've had real success, okay? Where I didn't have to be bought and paid for and sell my convictions down the river to make money. Yo, I didn't have to sell myself. At one time, I was a millionaire, okay? Barely. But technically, yes. Then my business tanked, thanks to Mr. Trump. I don't blame him, because honestly, China was taking advantage of us, and I just unfortunately happened to be in the crossfire, and yeah, my business got destroyed. I had to move back to this S-hole country that America has now become. But I've had real success. I've done the actual graft, not grift, like these frauds and phonies. So no, there's no envy. Commies envy. Socialists envy. I don't envy. If you've achieved success, good on you. But these people have achieved success by taking advantage and spreading information that's not going to help anybody. Not going to help anybody. More people are red pilled to certain things, but other things, the real cause is, they're not red pilled to any of that, and so, nothing ever changes. In fact, it just gets worse, and you wonder why. This is why. These people who are selling themselves and you down the river, and they're lying to you, and they're lying to themselves in many cases. And that's how you spot these people, man. Hey, spot him. Anyway, that's all I got to say on that. It's enough. Let's move on.